Let's see here. Okay, here 93 they have. Okay.
So when is he going to Israel? Tomorrow?
He does. I guess he doesn't know. He doesn't know, and he's going to make the arrangements. I guess it'll be on tonight. Where they make a funeral probably tomorrow. So I don't know. He doesn't. I don't know what's going to be.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's him. I mean, it's really, she was 100, right? I think she made 100.
Over 100.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So we'll start the mission then? Okay.
I think so. That's what I have the mark.
Right. I think that's okay, Mark, because I learned that over that. Yeah, okay. So Rishon Enosh a man had 4 wives, and he died. So Rishon Kodemus Lashi, the first wife takes precedent over the second. Shniya Lishlishis, and the second takes precedent over the third. Lishlishis Ravi, and the third takes precedent over the fourth. Rishon and Nishba Shniya, and the first one swears to the second that she had not been paid. Shniya Lishlishis, the second to the third. Ushlis Ravias, the third to the fourth. Ravias Nifra Shalobishu, and the fourth one collects without any oath at all, because she doesn't have to answer to anybody. That's what. So Benana says, should she the fourth prophet because she's the last? So she also has to make a shvua. So now let's say a man, all the Kesubos, that he had 4 wives, and they all produced the Kesubos on the same day. So we don't know who's first. So the is Kol HaKodemus HaChaverta, whoever precedes the other in time of a Kesuba, then Afil Shah, even by a single hour, Zochsa. So this addition to the day.
So the Kesubas have date and hour?
That's what it says. You'll see here that they have hours, which is unusual, but they have to put the dates on the time, the exact time they recited.
Yeah.
Then the wives are paid according to the order of the times regarding Kesubas. The wife bearing the Kesuba with the earliest time collects first. So it's not only is the date, but the time is first. So indeed they would record hours in Yerushalayim on the signature of the document. However, if the Kesubas are produced all and found and written in the single hour, the ain't sham ela money. And there's no more than one money. The cholkin b'shava all 4 divide with the money. In other words, they're all equal. Okay, so the Gemara says.
But it sounds it's very rare that they will be all at the same time.
A guy married 4 women in one day, huh?
Yeah.
How could he be so lucky, or how could he out of his mind,
I have 4 shvigas at the same time.
I didn't think of it that way. Yeah, right. Yeah. It's like the guy that says I went on a pleasure trip, I took my mother out to the airport,
Yeah.
Okay. So but my commit what's the machlokas of Shmuel kagon shemitzas achas mehem sada she'ena shelo. If one of them was found that one of the fields distributed to 3 earlier wives was not the husband's, it's anticipated that true owner will appear and seize the field. So therefore, the 4th wife, once the 4th wife has collected the last property, there will remain nothing from which to remunerate the wives who may lose their field for the first. Accordingly, Benanis, the 4th wife, must therefore swear she has not been paid while the husband was alive, so not to unlawfully cause a loss to none of the other wives. Okay, having described the case with Mishnah, Shmuel now presents the ground for the contrary position of the Tana. Who came on?
Harold.
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 Yeah.
You talked to Ernie?
No, my brother told me about it. I think they're trying to fly the body to Israel.
Right. So I don't know if there'll be a funeral or what. Yeah.
I don't know. I know nothing. Yeah.
He called me also to say he doesn't want to stop this year.
Okay.
So so we're learning now. This top we just learned Mishnah. So we're starting,
where are we? What
94. Sadi
94.
Dalet. Yeah. Okay. So because he called me, Ernie, and he says they didn't even make plans because the Chaver Kaddish is not open yet. So I don't know what, well, whatever. He says he wants to continue. He doesn't want to fall behind on the Daf. So he called me to say the Daf. That's one reason why I'm saying it. Okay, so the Mishnah says, we said that. Okay, now, and they all disagree on if a creditor later came before an earlier creditor and he collected the debt. That what he collected is not regarded as collected, so he has to give it back. In other words, if two people have a note on they owe some that they lend people money, so if the one who lends the second comes and grabs the money first, he has to return it. If he took it, he collects it. He collects it. So because he has just as much entitled to the guy's property as the first guy does. So Rab Nachman Kuliyama Masha Gava Lo Gava. The case of the latter creditor who preceded earlier, the property is collected is not regarded as collected. Accordingly, if the true owner repossesses a field awarded to one of the three wives, she may in turn seize the property collected by the fourth wife. So in other words, so Havitana Kama and Ben Nanas disagree here to whether we are concerned that the fourth wife might deplete the field. In other words, by the time they come to her, she use it all up. So Marsavar Hashila Shema Taxif. So we are concerned, Bananas is that we are concerned that she might have used up the value of the field. We're not concerned that the fourth wife depleted the field. So Abaya, Omer Kashisha Ikabenayu. They differ over the ruling of Abaya by the elder. It's different from Abaya himself. It's Abaya Kashisha. What do we call Kashisha, the older one? Whatever. Tanya Abaya Kashisha said, Isomim Sha'omru Gadolim Ve'ein Sorech Lo Mekatalim. You're talking about that they're adult orphans. Usually when they refer to the Gemara usually talks about Yisomim, they always refer to as they can't. So we take pity of them because they can't handle their own finances, but they're children. But here we're talking about the adult. They can. We're not worried that they can. They handle their own debts. We don't say that they apply to the minor orphans because who wish to collect the debt from inheritance of the minor orphans, but certainly first swear. Our Mishnah speaks of a case where husbands' orphans were all adults. So Tanakama less laid up by a kashisha. He doesn't hold like by a kashisha, and accordingly, the fourth wife is not required to swear before collecting. But Nanas is laid by a kashisha, whereas a Nanas does it, that you have to. We are concerned that they have to swear. They have to swear. But Ben Nana says they have to swear because of the Yisomim. So a ruling which I'm more well attempt to attribute to our Mishnah. Rav Huna, Hani Trey Achi, Trey Shutfei brothers. There were two brothers who shared inheritance, or two partners, of litigation with some other person, the third person, and had a shared property. So let's two partners had a din Torah with a third guy. Also, one of the brothers went to court and lost. So the other brother who was not at the court at the time cannot say you don't represent me. In other words, he can say to his partner or he can say to his brother, you're not my litigant. So therefore I want to have a separate trial. Of it, but rather the one partner is deemed to have acted as the agent, and so he said he in other words, let's say if one of the partners or one of the brothers was not in town, and this guy went ahead and went for court. So the other brother says, you didn't represent me, so I have to have a new trial with this guy. I could have spoken better. I could have been a better litigant. So he says that this guy represents both of them. So Ikle Rablach Syria, he came from Syria, and he asked him, Kihai Kavna, what was such a case where one of the two partners loses a case of a third party, and the second partner wishes to re-argue the suit on no behalf? What is the law? Rav Nachman said, the answer to yours is made in the Mishnah. Arishona Nishba L'Shliya. The first wife swears to the second, L'Shliya, Shlish, Levias, and the second to the third to the fourth. The Rishona and L'Shlish is no Tani, but the Mishnah does not state that the first wife must also swear to the third. By time, because not because the second wife acts as an agent of the third wife in accepting the oath from the first wife. So the oath sworn by the first wife must therefore satisfy the third wife as well. Similarly, each of the two partners regarded as the other's agent would argue a suit against the third partner. So Midomi is to the case had. Also, there's a case where one oath is an oath to one. In other words, one to the next is the same as oath to 1 to 100. Here's a case of the lawsuit, and lost by the two partners. The other partner can say, had I been in court, I would have advanced better arguments. He can therefore demand a new hearing. So that's the other Mandomer says that. It's a focus between whether one litigant can represent the other. So the more concludes that the other partner can indeed demand a new and separate hearing on his own behalf, but adds a qualification. We don't say that this except in the case where the other partner was not in town. Then he can use that as an excuse. When the one partner argued a suit before the court, but he was in town at the time of the original hearing, he cannot demand a new hearing. He should have come before the court when the suit was first conducted and present his own arguments. Okay, Mishnah taught the conclusion that if the Kesubos are written on the same day, all four wives divide the husband's estate. The Gemara cites an Amora dispute concerning a similar case. Shnei shtoros hayotzim yo'echad. Let's say there was two deeds that were produced, both written on a single day. Rav Omer Cholkin. Rav says they split the value of the property. Shmuel Omer Shur the Dayona. It is discretion to the judges. The court determines to whom their assessment, the original, was more likely to have granted the property, and they award the property to that person. So more suggests that opposing views of Rav Shmuel seemingly correspond to the Tanaic dispute. Name Rav Omer Rav Meir. Let Rav says, like according to Meir of Adomer Eidei Chasima Karti, that witness who signed get effect severance of the marital bond. In other words, so it means that when they sign it, that's when the effect takes place for the get. If a man writes a get for his wife and there's the Adam sign on it, so Rav says, like a mayor who says that it takes effect when the when the Eidim sign on it. The Shmuel says Eidim Asir Karta, that when the witnesses deliver it to the woman. So in other words, if in the meantime, if a man changed his mind, it's not a good get. So because it's only a get according to Shmuel when it actually delivered to the woman. Or says, look, Kuli Alma Rabbi I always say like the Rabbi Yozer, that it's when you deliver the document, that's when the get takes place. This is referred to Rav Savar Chaluka Adifa, that division that maintains that the division of disputed property is nevertheless preferable. Shmuel Savar Shir Dayona Adifa. Shmuel says that the entire property to one party, based upon the judge's discretion, is preferable. Those the judges determine how the man would have wanted to divide his property. When we was a smuka later of Kalazar, can you say that the position is according to Kalazar, who says that by again it's with Eidim Masir Karti? Well, halacha Kalazar the Gittin of Kalazar's only falls halacha Kalazar retires to Gittin, that it's by Eidim Masir Karti. Akiyam Risa Kamen Shmuel. Whereas Yehuda's statement, when I related the Rav's ruling in the presence of Shmuel, our af b'shtoros, how the halacha falls below, even with regard to financial documents. Michlal Rav Somer b'shtoros. So we may reference for inference here that regard to financial documents, halacha does not follow below. The signatory witness to a deed, not the witnesses to delivery, invest a deed with the power to effect the sale. How can a Rav ruling on conflicting sales, deeds of sale, be predicted out of Rabbi view? The clear explanation of the dispute is that Rabbi Shmuel is Rabbi Meir and Shmuel Kabbalazar. That confirming the consensus of the Morim with regard to getting halacha Fazim Balazar, that's Masira. However, in issue of financial documents, Rav according to Rabbi Meir that it's the discretion of the chachamim, I mean of the court to determine who he prefers to. Okay, next. So now Meisvei, they challenge Shmuel's ruling from the Brisa. Shnei shtoros hayotze b'yom echad. We guess they produce two deeds in the same day. Cholkin. So what do we say? We say they divide. They divided. So this is a refutation of Shmuel. What does Shmuel say when it comes to? So Shmuel says that it's up to the Bezdin, up to the court to determine. Here they say the Pharaohs, no question, they divide it. That's it. The Bezdin doesn't have a ruling on it. It's whatever they divide it. Because if they have two shorts, they're both and they're proved to be both good deeds, so they divide it. It's like if it's two people come to Bezdin with holding a talus, one says it's all mine, and the other says it's all mine. It's chokin. I presume it'd be the same thing, right? Wouldn't you see that way?
Yeah, but it says here that they could not have occurred earlier from one from the other. What does it mean by that?
No, because they both come on the same day, and the notes they're the same day. So one is not before the other. See, Shmuel maintains the judges use their discretion to award the entire property to one creditor, whereas the other one says you split a chokin. Remember,
They don't use the time.
No, there's no time. The time is not specified in there. They both produce documents that are written on a single day, so they both have the same right to it. So, what's the famous sumchas, right? About moment amuta b'shafik cholken, isn't he hold that? Any money in doubt, they divide. That's the famous.
They divide, yeah, I'm pretty sure they divide it.
Moment amuta chos. Maybe
they divide.
The same thing.
Yeah.
They divide it. So that's like that. Oh, because they both have equal rights to the same star. They both have equal rights to it. So Rab Shmuel, Rab Meir, who's the author of the Brisa? Rab Meir retains that witnesses to deliver a deed do not invest it with power to effect the sale. Consequently, neither of the two sales can have occurred earlier than the other, and the bearers of the deed must therefore split the property. So, and what does my state and what does Rabbi Elazar say? That witnesses to deliver do invest in deed with the power to effect the sale. Therefore, the bearer of the deed, which was delivered earlier, is the true owner of the entire property. It falls to the judges to decide which deed was more likely to have been delivered first. That's what his logic was. He says because it's impossible that one takes place before the other. I mean that one it's only one has to take place before the other. So therefore, it's up to the judges to determine. I mean, the court to determine, who gets it first, as opposed to Shmuel, who says that
when you sell a property, don't you have to do a kinyan, whatever? So once you did that, the property belongs to the guy who bought it. Doesn't matter.
So, but the question is they both have the same title. The man sold it twice. I mean, I guess he sold it twice, or maybe he had.
But he delivered it to one of the other.
No, they both have deeds. Now,
they both have. Does the deed mention that he only owns half?
I don't know, but it doesn't
Probably
say
not.
that. Maybe it's two different properties, but he doesn't have. Let's say he doesn't have enough assets left over for some reason.
That could
maybe,
be right.
I'm not sure. Maybe he does. So they decide who gets whatever's left over, who gets it. So one says we divide it and we split whatever is left over, and the other one says whatever the court rules, he gets the whole thing of what's left over, and the other guy gets nothing because somebody had been prior to the other. The deeds had been take place one before the other. It couldn't have been done at the same time. It says if
it says here the same property.
The same. Okay, so
but the thing is,
single. Yeah.
When you sell a property, don't you have to do a kinyan?
But well, maybe that maybe it did. Maybe we assume that it was all done with a kinyan. And this is the result of whatever happened, if he did it right or wrong. But it still comes in effect. It's still a problem. What do we do? They both produce shtaros that they were given. Presumably, they both made they both made kinyan in it, and so.
Because it sounds like a Geneva, no?
I don't know if it's a Geneva. Maybe the man. Let's see. It's just like first, I don't know why he did it that way. Maybe who knows why he did it that way. So he wants to bring the same. He wants to make a connection to the fact that a woman, that four women have the ksuba, and they're all done at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's what he's trying to connect it to. So we'll see what happens here now. So either a mayor or aim a safe. If it's according to a mayor, let's look at the end of the safe. If an owner of a property wrote a sale of a deed to one person, but prior to the actual presentation of the first deed, subsequently wrote a second conflicting deed to the same property and presented to a different person. That's what you're saying. So evidently, he did something. He's wrong in what he did. He sold a bill of goods twice, right? So the one who he presented the deed acquires a property, because even though he wrote one first, but whoever he gave it to, whoever he presented it to, he's the one that gets the property. Let's say probably through a kinyan. So now, if the Brisa was taught by Rabbeir, why does a second person acquire the property? The mayor says that the signature of the witnesses to get affect severance, and that is similar. The signatory witness to a deed invested with the power to effect the sale, not the witnesses presented at delivery of the time of the deed buyer. Since the two deeds were signed on the same date, both buyers should have equal claims to the property, regardless of which deed was presented earlier in the day.
So the first one to be witnessed during the is the real one.
You didn't come in.
That's what they're saying. No?
No, say it again. I didn't hear you.
It says that the signatory witnesses to a deed invested power to not witnesses present at the delivery of the deed.
Right. So that it does that. It doesn't count. It's when Eideh Hasima, when the witnesses sign on it, that according to a mayor,
Right.
that should be the effect of when it takes effect. So evidently, the Bryson does not reflect the opinion of mayor, but rather Rabbi Lazar, who maintains that the witnesses to delivery invest a deed in his power. Accordingly, delivery of a deed to the buyer in the presence of witnesses affects the sale irrevocably immediately, and the seller can no longer deed the property to a second buyer even on the same day. So we see that if he wrote two deeds, so we give it to the person who he actually gave it to, because the one who he gave it to secondly is ineffective. It's nothing, That's according to Rabbi Lazar, that we go. The Bryson goes to if the two deeds are written on a single day. So what takes effect is the one who he gives it to initially. He's the one that made the kinyan, and the other guy is out of luck. It's a bogus. It's a bogus gift or sell to that. So the other guy, even though they're written the same date, the stars are the same date, and that's a division of dispute rather than having the judge's award to claim it as a preferred solution, even where the problem actually belongs to a single owner. This really contradicts well. So Tana here, whether the division of a contested property is preferable to awarding it in the discretion of the judges is subject of Tanaic dispute. The Tanya was taught in another Bryce. A trustee went to convey a gift of money. Arriving at his destination, he discovers that the recipient has died. Returning to the sender, he finds that the sender also has died. It is not clear whether the sender had intended that, in the event of the original recipient had died, the money should be presented to his heirs, or whether the gift was meant only for the original recipient. So since the recipient no longer lives, the money should now return to the sender's heirs. How to resolve the quandary? The Chachamim says, Yachloku. The two partners divide. The one who he's going to send it to, the heirs are the one he sends it to, and the heirs are the one who send it. But here they said, the trustee should do as he pleases. He awards the money to whoever the party he sees fit. In other words, the Bezin rewards the property to either to the sender, heirs, or to the recipient's heir. Thus, the sages maintain that division is contested, preferably is preferable. The Tanoim of Babylon maintain that property should be awarded to a single claimant. Shmuel accords to the Tanoim of Babylon that day. That should be awarded to a single one. So they leave that to Bezin, who wants to do it. Occurrence of involving conflicting deeds bearing the same date. Another one. Ima de Rami Bar Chama, mother Rami Bar Chama, the Kasfidu Nichse Rami Bar Chama, but Safra wrote away her property to Rami Bar Chama. By the way, I have a sefer. This is unbelievable. My daughter gave it. It's called Introduction to the Talmud. It is unbelievable. It's got every Tana and Amora. They describe their whole life about it. Actually, was reading today about the mother of Rami Bar Chama. What a great. Sometimes the women of these Tanoim were so great, and Amorim were so great. They they came from themselves. They came from big yichus, and they were Kodesh Baruch Hu gave them such mind understanding. They knew Gemara more than most of the rabbis knew. So that's why I came on this. Rabbi Bacham, I was reading about that today in this book. It's in English. It's an amazing book, but all that goes to the life history of all the Tanoim and Amoraim and what they were so great. So,
What's it called? Introduction to the Talmud.
it's called the Introduction
What's
to the
it called?
Talmud. It's called Introduction to the Talmud.
Oh,
It's by
interesting.
Art Scroll. I got to show it to you. It's really amazing. It's amazing. It's a big book.
Yeah,
You probably have
yeah.
it. Did you have it? You have it probably, no? It's amazing.
No, I don't have it. No.
And then it has the back of it. It's about the Rambam, how he developed all the Seder Mishnayos, how he put it together, and about the history of Rambam. Amazing. I mean, it's just like I could put it down. The book, yeah. So now, so what happened? The mother of Rabbi Bar Chama, Kasvina the Nisa, the Rabbi Bar Chama, wrote away her property to Rabbi Bar Chama, her son, in the morning. Toward the evening, she wrote in the property, the same property, to Mar Ukva Bar Chama, to another son. It was not known which son actually received the first deed. Also, Rabbi Bar Chama came of Jason requested a ruling of the status of the property. Ukva Benichse, Jason installed Rabbi Bar Chama on the property as its rightful owner. So Rabbi Bar Chama was the first son. Also by Ukva the Kamer of Nachman. So Rav Ukva came. The second son came to Bar Ukva and Rav Nachman, and Rav Nachman settled it Rav Ukva on the property. So the one Bezdin said the first one, and one said the second one. So also Rav Shesha came to Rav Nachman. Rav Shesha came and said before Rav Nachman. Let's see here. It came. He said to him, "My time of it, Baruch. Why did you do this? Why did you give it over to the first son?" Omer Lei Nachman replied to Sheshes, "My time of it, Baruch. Why did you award the property to Rav Chama?" So Omer Sheshes said to Rav Nachman, "I awarded the property to Rav Chama because he preceded Rav Ukva, in as much as Rav Chama deed was signed first." Rav Nachman, he said to Sheshes, "Oti Misham Yasir the Kasvina shows. We reside in Yerushalayim where they would record hours on the signature. In our community, the practice is to record only the date which our document was signed, but not the hour, indicating that we do not concede precedence to the earlier two documents written on the same day. So Mar Ukva, Rabbi Bar Chama, therefore enjoyed equal claims to the property." So Sheshes persists in question of Nachman. Why did you maintain that both claims are valid? Did the master do this? In other words, Sheshes do this toward the entire property of Mar Ukva rather than divide it between them? Rav Nachman said to Rav Sheshes, "Shuri the Dayoneh, when conflicting deeds are produced, the decision falls on the discretion of the judges. In my capacity as a judge, I assess that Mar Ukva was son more cherished by mother, that she was likely to present Mar Ukva with his deed. But the presentation of the deed would have immediately affected the gift, and subsequent presentation of conflicting deed, Rabbi Bar Chama would have been immaterial. I therefore awarded the property to Mar Ukva." Let my decision award the property to Bar Chama also be regarded as a legitimate award based upon the discretion of the judges. How can you overturn my verdict? Rav Nachman answers, Amar said to Rav Sheshes, I can overrule it for two reasons. One, I'm an appointed judge, whereas the master is not an appointed judge. So you didn't originally arrive at your decision on this premise, which means Rav Sheshes was awarded the property to Rabbi Bar Chama because his deed was signed first. But in this, he erred because Rabbi Bar Chama's mother was not a resident of Yerushalayim. So she did not record the hours signing in her deeds. Rav Sheshes' decision was thus predicated on the error. and was therefore meaningless. So each of the deed bearers asserts that he acquired the property first. Okay, one more case. Hani Trey Star Da'asa Kamer Rav Yosef. The two deeds of the sale of property were brought before Rav Yosef. Hare Hava Kosev Chavisha B'Nisan. One was recorded at the 5th of Nisan. B'Chad Kosev B'Nisan Stama. One just was recorded Stam, just as in the month of Nisan with those specific dates. Also, Rav Yosef settled one bearing the date on the 5th upon the properties. The other said to him, Father, Afsit, why should I lose? Rav Yosef said to him, your claim is inferior. Bar Esrim with Shabbat Nisan. Maybe I can assert your title is on the 29th of Nisan, the last day of the month. The deed written on the 5th, therefore, predates yours. Therefore, he said to Rav Yosef, let the master write me a mirpa meyur, document conferring the right of seizure, saying that I can appropriate any property sold by the seller from year on. So Rav Yosef replied to him, the purchaser from whom you wish to seize the property can say, Adbar Chad Nisan, your title is as early as the 1st of Nisan, and therefore antedates the deed written on the 5th of Nisan. The buyer holding the deed should not have received your property. The buyer with the deed hearing the unspecific date, nevertheless, has some recourse. What is the remedy? Let the bearers of the two deeds write one another authorization to collect. So it's interesting how they get. Okay.
To collect what?
Yeah, to collect it from the guy who has who bought the property. Yeah. All right. So I guess we'll see tomorrow. Should we learn tomorrow, Mario?
Yeah, I think so.
8 p.m.
Okay.
8 p.m. is good.
8 p.m. Okay. You want to,
Yeah.
Mario? Harold, you want to, or Mario, you want to say the Daf tomorrow?
No.
Huh?
What?
Harold, you want to, or Mario, you want to learn the Daf? You'll say the Daf tomorrow?
Me?
You're doing
No,
a very good job.
You do perfectly well.
No.
Yeah, you.
I have to. I'll prepare. I'll try to
Alan, you're
prepare.
great. You're great.
No. Tell my wife that.
I'll tell her.
Tell her, I'll text her right now.
Okay.
I got to tell you something interesting. I
Good
have a
night.
case. I got
What's
Harold.